This July, the film The Odyssey, directed by acclaimed filmmaker Christopher Nolan, is set to be released, and the cast list has sparked controversy. The point of contention is that Helen of Troy in Homer's epic is being played by black actress Lupita Nyong'o, which has triggered a round of noisy debate among film fans, cultural critics, and the general public. Before discussing this issue, 3 things should be stated clearly. 1. Ethnic harmony and equality should be upheld. 2. Film is both an art form and a form of mass entertainment. Its innovation, methods of expression, and messages should all be pursued with excellence. 3. The historical stories and ethnic narratives of different places should be taken seriously. Humanity may be able to discover treasures in them that enrich the first 2 points above. From this perspective, even if Nolan completes this epic production, I still want to speak up for black people. Nolan's next challenge should be to make a film based on African stories. This video will analyze this step by step. In recent years, there have been repeated controversies over whether an actor's skin color matches the story, including The Little Mermaid in 2023 and Snow White in 2025, both of which cast actors of African and Latin American descent in roles from traditional Western stories. In this case, the Odyssey not only cast Lupita as Helen, but also chose another black actress, Zendaya, to play Athena. The controversy touches on history and literature. The issue must be clarified layer by layer. Some people say that casting a black actress as Helen ignores history, but this needs to be clearly distinguished. At the most basic level, Homeric epics were probably not written based on history. The Trojan horse, the Odysseus' 10-year journey were most likely not real events. So who the filmmakers choose to portray these characters had nothing to do with actual history. On a deeper level, the issue concerns how closely the adaptation follows the original text, what people usually call being faithful to the source. This involves why an adapter chooses a certain work to remake, how much the changes affect the work, and how they affect the audience's impression. Simply put, an adaptation can stay close to the original or depart from it. In literature and film, of course, it doesn't have to remain faithful to the source, and the result can be judged aesthetically by the audience. But drastic alterations to the original, so-called butchering the source, usually carry a high risk. Viewers often feel that if a work is going to be heavily rewritten, there was no need to adapt that particular source in the first place. They also have fixed impressions of famous works, or what literary theory calls horizon of expectations, so adaptations that stray too far usually don't receive favorable judgments. Since Helen is described in the Odyssey as having fair skin, many viewers will naturally assess the choice of black actress Lupita through that framework. At an even deeper level, the creative background of the original work is itself part of history. Modern readers often consider the relationship between an author's era and their work. For instance, when modern readers encounter the terms Yi, Dik, Fan, and Wu Ren in ancient Chinese texts, they tend to assume this refers to people connected with Northeast Asia, Central Asia, or even West and South Asia, while excluding the Americas. The same applies to reading Homeric epic. Readers draw on the knowledge of history to imagine what the ancient Greek work of Homer was like, how far his imagination could reach, and what sort of subjects he was more likely to depict. For example, Greece traded with neighboring regions. How likely would Homer have been to encounter black Africans? What kind of ideal of beauty would he have in mind when describing Helen as possessing breathtaking, world-famous beauty? In the case of the Odyssey film, the production is drawing on Homeric epic, which was shaped by a specific historical background, and Homeric epic and Greek mythology have a foundational place in Western civilization and are deeply embedded in Western culture. How closely the new film matches that background also becomes one of the standards by which audiences judge whether the new work captures the spirit of the original. After all that, according to the standards set above, the film could still use black actors or not use them. Critics can weigh the different criteria and arrive at a final conclusion. In this case, casting black actors as Helen the Beauty and the goddess Athena probably has something to do with a recent DEI trend, attempting to show in the most obvious way possible that the work is repeatedly atoning for the crimes white people have committed against black people in the past. But this move doesn't fulfill the three shoulds stated at the beginning, and therefore doesn't truly amount to taking black people seriously. Faced with the dual challenge of adapting a classic and expressing DEI, Nolan takes the easiest route. What has traditionally been considered beautiful is played by black actors. The goddess too is played by black actors. Homer says the skin is fair, then Nolan makes it dark. Where the Greeks imagine a goddess as a vessel for wisdom, he uses a black body to carry that symbol. Such moves inevitably take black people who originally possessed free spirits and place them into a pre-existing white narrative. On the surface, white people are elevating black people. In reality, black people still can't escape the mold that white people have used for thousands of years. To use the vocabulary of DEI advocates, black people are still part of white people's narrative, subject to the white gaze, turned into objects, and denied empowerment. They are stripped of the right to become independent, self-determining individuals. Sub-Saharan Africa, also known as Black Africa, has long been rich in beauties, including Halle Berry, Beyoncé, Rihanna, and Zendaya, who appears in the Odyssey. Even if some people object to Lupita playing Helen, they shouldn't ignore her own unique charm. She never needs to portray a legendary white beauty to prove that she is beautiful. Sub-Saharan Africa also has a deep history and rich legends. If one truly wants the world to see black people, one should not keep repeating stories about white people who once enslaved them. A few rough examples will do. In 1500 BCE, the Nok civilization had already emerged in West Africa, and these people possessed ironworking technology. In 1000 BCE, the kingdom of Kush existed in East Africa and had the ability to undertake major construction projects, including pyramids. The number of pyramids in present-day Sudan is greater than in Egypt. In 300 CE, the Ghana Empire rose in the area of present-day Mali and Mauritania, in the so-called Land of Gold, and controlled trans-Saharan trade routes. In 900 CE, the kingdom of Mapungubwe was established in southern Africa. In the late 14th century, the kingdom of Congo rose, established a complex bureaucratic system, developed extensive diplomacy, and lasted for 5 centuries, becoming a powerful state in Central African history. These examples are by no means exhaustive. Even from the few listed above, one can already see the vast African continent, linked by a long historical streams largely unknown to outsiders, spanning east, west, south, and north, and reaching from antiquity through the medieval period to modern times. There are also more legendary stories, such as that of Queen of Sheba. Scholars are still uncertain whether she existed and where her reign lay, but historical accounts, including the Old Testament, describe her visiting Israel at the height of its power, which suggests that she was worthy of an audience with a major regional power. One common theory is that the Queen of Sheba ruled southern Arabia, today's Saudi Arabia and Yemen, as well as the Horn of Africa, today's Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia, meaning she could certainly serve as one of the heroic figures in an African history of glory. Why not have Hollywood directors read a few more books on African history and legend, cast African actors in leading roles, or even discover new stars in Africa itself, and make several major films that wholeheartedly tell Africa's story? Such a move would promote ethnic integration and diversity, lead cinematic innovation, uncover historical and cultural treasures, and fulfill exactly the 3 shoulds stated at the start. It will also break free from white hegemony and build an African narrative. If such a film truly existed, its contribution to black people would surely be hundreds or thousands of times greater than a statement made on the Oscar stage. I sincerely ask filmmakers of all kinds to consider it. If you have any idea or like this video, please comment, like, subscribe and share. I'll be grateful if you support me on Patreon or Substack, making us go even further. See you on the next video.